long story short, still super bullish on PayPal. Got great expectations for them in 2025 and throughout 2026 as well. I'm not sure I'll be holding super long term on this one, as initially this was a return to the kind of median play on me. It got way too undervalued, but I'm very excited to see how the ads business rolls out on this one. You can check out my full thesis on my website, thecraftytrader.com. Other than that, in this video we'll talk about the daily and weekly price action. We look at that to figure out where to trim and where to add, basically within our risk tolerances. As well as that, we'll take a look at the open options interest. We'll see what the big boys are doing in the market makers. We'll take a look at some PayPal news, and my live portfolio is linked below in the link to eToro, and it's also on the screen there for you. Straight in PayPal chart. I had a wicked bounce actually with the really good PPI and CPI numbers. So again, a lot of confidence building in the financial sector. So a lot of financials really shot up the last few days, which has been very nice for my portfolio. But looking at this, we'd had a really nice bounce on this historic support, and it also aligned with the bull market band. Now, the bull market band did flip bearish, so there was a little bit of caution there, but I expect it to turn back green shortly. The thinner the band, though, the weaker it is as support, so something to bear in mind. You really want it to be chunky, and you want price to be drifting away from that. So it's still not out of the woods, but, it looks good. Fundamentally, the company is executing. Love it. Resistance to the upside, we've got the local high at 93.81, and then we've got kind of 95.33 as the measured move. We have two measured moves completing there from the red and the blue pattern. So that one's going to be a little bit tougher, and there's also not much volume there. But we are building a really nice volume in this range. It kind of looks a bit like it's a little flag, to be honest. These at levels won't be accurate. I'm just kind of chucking these on so you can get a feel for it. And then really $100 is going to be a really key psychological level. A lot of strikes will be in that area. We'll take a look at the open options interest on that one though, just to verify. But a pop above that and then a pull back to back test wouldn't be too much of a shock. So kind of expect that around that level. The RSI pretty neutral, so we can go up, we can go down. We're good to go on either of that. The MACDX Plus, institutions started loading the boat again. No real overbought warning signs or anything like that. So with the flow being neutral, plenty of upside potential on this one still. Let's take a look at the weekly. When it loads. Again, this looks like a pretty beastie cup and handle here. We can see the body of it, and then we'll pop back up, likely to, like we said, the $100 area. And I would expect to push over that and then back test it. But I mean, the measured move on that would be quite beastie. So that's really good to know. My fair value target kind of for next year is $124. But I think when the ads business, we start getting more details about that, my price target is going to creep up a bit on that one. Weekly RSI, a little bit spicy, but not too much. PayPal doesn't typically like getting too hot on the weekly, so that's a little bit of more caution. So again, a little bit more chop would kind of help cool that off, but maybe it wants to run hot. Who knows? That's not something to base your trades around. It just helps with a little bit of confluence and to know when to slow it down. MACDX Plus again looks good on the weekly though, and flow is kind of petered out, but still looking good. Open options interest on this one, kind of we're at resistance, so market makers are going to want to sell that off, keep maximum pain on investors there. Support is sitting at 86, which is decent. We can see, looking at the strikes here, there's not a whole lot of interest, but there's a lot of volume at $100, so there is kind of that expectation for more upside, although $100 in a week is quite unlikely, so I would rein in your expectations if that's what you fancy. Stranger things have happened though. I wouldn't say it is impossible, but let's push it out a week, see what the market's thinking. Bit more volume creeping in. Again, $100 is kind of faded, so maybe we're expecting a bit of a pump on Trumpy boy. But a lot of people sitting in the money on this one. There is some bearishness as well, but I wouldn't give them too much mind. Fundamentally, I think the company is very strong. Let's push out to 2026. Oh, wrong month. There we go. So for the end of this current year, a lot of people picking out $95 and $100 kind of target. So yeah, that's pretty good. A lot more upside then. But again, there's not a whole lot of volume going on here, so it's not really interesting to people currently. I think when the ads business rolls out, that will change. January 2027, just out of curiosity, now it's available. Let's take a look. I mean, the strikes really don't change, but a lot of the volume to the downside has withered away. So really, not many people too interested in this company, but that doesn't surprise me. It's not the sexiest company at the moment, but I think it's a bit of an underdog. News-wise for PayPal, I haven't seen too much news this week. I think we're still dealing with a little bit of the aftermath from the honey scandal, whatever you want to call it, with the code swapping. Some lawsuits are coming out, and it's pretty hard to find some accurate information on how many lawsuits and whatnot's being done. But overall, I don't see too much impact to the actual price of PayPal. It's such a small part of the business. Again, I think the main damage could be reputation damage, but I think they say somewhere in this post as well, bear in mind how many people don't realize Venmo is part of PayPal. Probably the amount of people that know Honey is related to PayPal is very small. When the news initially broke, PayPal price didn't reflect really much movement at all. A lot of the drop has been from the macro kind of environment in price, but still something to be super aware of. We don't know what's going to happen with these lawsuits, how many there are, and what kind of payouts they're going to be. We've seen some legal changes coming up for the company. I don't know if that's related to this, but I keep getting emails about policy changes and whatnot. But I think for the most part, it's just kind of wait and see. For me, it doesn't change much long term for the business. Again, it's such a small part of the business, but it's that reputation damage. PayPal's worked really hard the last year to change how people feel about the brand. A lot of people still negative from PayPal. It's got that name for a reason. So definitely something to be aware of, but I don't think it's going to impact too much in the long term unless things get crazy with having to pay out punitive damages and that kind of stuff. But for now, it's just kind of something to be aware of. That's a wrap. If you like this content, give it a like, share with your mum, your nan, your dad, your gran, whoever, subscribe, and I'll see you next week.